Coming up this week on Ride the Lightning, the Tesla Motors Unofficial Podcast. That noise you hear is the Model X reveal event. I am here. Let's talk about it. Welcome to Ride the Lightning, the Tesla Motors Unofficial Podcast, episode 10. The Model X reveal event recap. This is October 4th of 2015, and as you heard at the top, I was indeed at Tesla. Can't quite call it the Tesla factory because it was actually at a adjacent building. Apparently, I'm told, the former Solyndra building, just down the street from the actual Tesla factory. But I was there. It was a heck of a night. I recorded the whole thing with me chiming in a little bit here and there. So if you'd like to hear that, that's actually coming up next. But if you don't, just skip ahead about, 26 minutes from when this little segment ends and from when you start hearing Elon speak. So just skip ahead 26 minutes if you don't want to hear that or already heard it. But I was there. It was a heck of a night. It was a long night, I will say. It was. I got there, I tried to get there early, there was a good line of cars to get in. I'll tell you what, I had just been thinking a few days prior to that too, like, I don't see many signature red Model S's anymore. And it's not that there are any fewer of them or that they're any rarer, but it's just that they're the same number of signature S's there always was. The difference is between now and, 2 to almost 3 years ago is that back then, if I saw a Model S, there was pretty good odds that it was going to be a signature red because it was going to be a signature series. Now I see Model S's every day, and the odds of them, they're only 1,000, 1,200 of them in the U.S. out of however many S's are running around the U.S. at this point, 50,000+ of them. So, but yeah, the point being, that parking lot for the Model X reveal event, that was the place to go and see signature red cars. If you had not seen it or hadn't seen one in a while, it was good to see them out, man. There's just a ton of Model S's in the parking lot, even one BMW i8 in the parking lot randomly. But it was a good time. It was definitely loud, definitely packed. Elon made us wait quite a while. Some people on the internet were super upset about that. I was expecting that. Not that necessarily makes it any better, but at least I was sort of prepared for it. But I do think that, yeah, Elon, by the time they'd said, doors open at 7, arrive by 7:30, presentation at 8, I don't think Elon didn't come on till, I think, 9, might have even been a little later than that. But for the next thing, which I presume will be the Model 3 reveal event in what Elon has said is March, which I very much hope to be at, it could be a little more on time. I would not be upset if it was a little more on time, but it was a good time. So right now, let me go ahead and go to Elon's presentation, which I recorded from the crowd. You can hear him pretty good. I ran it through some audio filters to make sure. And again, just skip ahead 26 minutes if you don't want to hear it. And hey, if you were there and want to leave your impressions of the event, or if you weren't there and want to ask me a question about something about being at the event, give a ring to my new call-in line, courtesy of Life on Record. The toll-free number is 1-888-989-TSLA. That's 1-888-989-8752, or you can Skype to Life on Record too. So again, here's Elon's spiel from the Model X reveal event, and if you don't want to hear it, skip ahead 26 minutes, and then I've got a lot more to talk about.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Elon Musk.
And here comes Elon Musk. He's on the stage.
All right. Welcome everyone to the Model X launch. Thank you all for coming. The Tesla team has worked incredibly hard. They've done, I think, an amazing job, and I'm really looking forward to showing you the car. I want to start off just by reminding people like what the mission of Tesla is to accelerate the advent of sustainable transport. As you guys know, it's incredibly important that we move to a sustainable world sooner rather than later. The sooner we do it, the better it is. And it's important to show that any type of car can go electric. We showed that you can make a compelling sports car with the Roadster, and that could go electric. We showed that you can do it with a sedan, and now we're going to show that you can do it with an SUV. We're going to start off with what's actually most important for a car, which is safety. If you're driving, you're carrying your friends and family around, there's really nothing that's more important than safety. So first and foremost, the car is going to keep you and the ones you love safe and protect you under any circumstance you can imagine.
Well, I can't see anything from where I'm standing.
Maybe you just look at other people's screens. No, it's good. I'm actually looking the same thing.
So, there you have the Model X. I'm going to talk a lot more about the details of the car, but I'm going to start off with safety. With the Model X, we've created the safest SUV ever. It's the first SUV that's 5 stars in every category. I thought I'd just explain what does 5 stars mean. 5 stars is not technically a statistical number. It's sort of a rough reference point. And what it actually means is it describes the probability of a serious injury in a high-speed accident. So you start off with sort of 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, 5 star, and they go down in 5% increments. So a 4 star would be a 15% probability of injury in a high-speed accident. 5 star would be 10%. Hypothetically, if there was a 6 star, it would be at 5%. And we've been able to get with Model X an expected rating of about 6.5%. And so let me explain how we get to such low probability of injury. And it goes to the design of the car and the fundamental architecture. So starting off with the frontal, sort of what happens in a frontal crash. So this is where most injuries and deaths occurs in a frontal crash. And normally with a gasoline car, you've got a large steel engine block in front. And so in a high-speed impact, that engine block compresses into the passenger compartment and obviously causes damage to the people that are sitting there. With the Model X, there is no such thing. So we have a small electric motor that's down low by the battery pack. And the net effect is that you've got a much larger distance for the crumple zone. So it's really taking impact energy is about force over distance. And if you've got a longer distance, you can actually distribute that force over that longer distance and have a better deceleration and not impact the cabin. So in the case of the frontal zone, you've got it's got something that's equivalent of like if you were to jump out of a tall building into a pool, it's the difference between jumping into a pool or a pool with a rock in it. So you don't want a pool with a rock in it. So then going on to a side impact, the Model S and the Model X are about half of the next best in the SUV class. So the side pole intrusion is only 215 millimeters in the Model X, and that's compared to the next best SUV, which is about double that number. And let's see what that looks like in the picture. So this is what it looks like with the side. This is the actual side pole test for the Model X compared to the next best SUV in the world.
Wow.
And this is the difference between life and death. This is a really big difference. So, and then now let's look at the rollover numbers. So the Model X, because it has a low center of mass with the battery pack and the floor fan, has half the rollover propensity of any SUV or minivan. So the probability of a rollover injury is substantially reduced. And you can see this in the architecture. We start with the pack, and that pack provides a stiffening member for the whole car. It provides a very strong foundation for the whole car, lowering the center of mass, and serving as a load transfer medium to the rest of the vehicle. So whereas a gasoline car really just has thin corrugated sheet metal at the base and can't transfer the load in the side impact. So we'll just show you the rest of the car building up. You see the motors and the chassis. It gives you a sense for the core architecture of the car. Now, of course, the best protection is not to get into an accident at all. So the Model X comes standard with active safety, which includes automatic emergency braking and side collision avoidance. So the car will actually use the camera and the radar to automatically brake before there's an accident, and it will use the ultrasonic sensors around the side of the car to steer you away from the side collision. And these are active all the time, and it's just a standard feature of the car. Now the third thing, which is sort of topical, is air safety. Now we designed the car well before recent events. So it just happens to, there's recent events have illustrated the importance of air safety. And we have with the Model X the first true HEPA filter in a car. So, and why is it important to have a particulate filter? Why is it important to have a gas filter in a car? It's because this translates to a real change in life expectancy. So these are the most conservative numbers we could find on the internet. Like the most conservative. They go way worse than this. This is basically the least bad thing that would happen if you live in these cities. So, and now let's take a look at the filters themselves. I want to show you just how much of a difference this is. The top one is our primary air filter. The one on the left and the bottom is our secondary air filter. The one on the right is a normal car air filter. I think we've got some of those here. So, this is what a normal car filter looks like. It's really quite small. This is the primary air filter of the Model X. And this is the secondary air filter. Our secondary air filter is bigger than the primary air filter of a typical car. So and not only is it 10 times larger area, but the quality of the filter is greater. So that translates to a several hundred-fold improvement in the filtration capability. It is 300 times better at filtering bacteria, 500 times better at allergens, 700 times better at civil smog, and 800 times better at filtering viruses. And this is on a bad day. So this is the minimum passing brake, when it's just operating at its worst. So in addition to the particle filters, we have 3 layers of active carbon. So we've got one universal absorbent layer, that's the initial layer. Then we've got another activated carbon layer that's meant for acid gases, and another one for alkaline gases. The net effect of the air filtration system is that you have air cleanliness levels which are comparable to a hospital operating room in the car.
I suspect this will make it over to S at some point too, I would have to guess.
And in fact, when the car is operating at its at maximum capability, so if you sort of press max capability in the car, we can't even detect any viruses or bacteria or spores. So it's like 0 come through. So if there's ever sort of a apocalyptic scenario sometime, hypothetically, you just press the bioweapon defense mode button. This is a real button. We're trying to be a leader in apocalyptic defense scenario. So let's move on to the car itself. Like, what's cool and fun about the car? Doors and windows. Okay. So you're obviously familiar with the falcon-wing door. What we also have is an auto-presenting front door. So what it'll do is it'll triangulate my position and detect that I am moving towards the front door. It will open the front door without me touching anything. I will sit down and it will close the door, like an invisible chauffeur.
Get out of here. That's pretty baller right there.
There are a few other features that are hard.
Here's the surprise that he was talking about the whole time.
Scenario, but it's something that we worked very hard on is a windshield that's a panoramic windshield. So it comes up and over and feels like a helicopter cockpit when you're driving. It gives you unbelievable visibility. It's transformative in the driving experience. So you really, when you do the test drives later tonight, you'll see what I mean. It really makes a difference. And then in addition to that, we also have it's a small feature, but an important one, is the ability to blind holster your phone. So this is like one of those things where it's small, but it's important. Instead of having to fiddle with a bunch of wires to plug in your phone, you can basically take it out of your pocket and blind holster it. It'll automatically fit, and there are adapters for every variant of popular phone. So, let's open these doors. So the reason we created these doors was originally we were trying to solve a problem, which is how do you access the third row if you have child seats in the second row? And I kind of respond when I first got a gasoline SUV. I had twins, and once you put them in the second row, you couldn't access the third row. So we wanted to have an opening that was big enough so that you could do that. So you could have real utility of the third row, while even if you have kid seats in the second row. So you basically just press the button, the seats will go forward, and I can step directly in. It's also important that if you have, say, a child seat here, that instead of having to sort of cantilever your kid out in front, sort of put them basically into a small hole, you can actually just stand right here. You can actually step into the car if you want. You can just put your child down in the child seat. It makes a huge difference in terms of back strain and comfort. So those are the two functional reasons, and it also looks cool. So, yeah. So that's the falcon-wing doors. And obviously, a question with the doors is: so how do they fit in tight spaces? Well, we'll show you. Let's bring out the cars.
Rolled out a standard gas-powered Honda minivan. And an Audi SUV.
So the scenario we're going to show you here is if you've ever been in a parking lot and someone parked real close.
It's like the DeLorean. It only needs a foot, right? Yeah. Just like the DeLorean.
I don't know if you can see well here, but there's only about a few inches separating the side mirrors on each side of the car. So we're going to open the falcon-wing doors where there's barely enough room to squeeze between the two cars.
That's awesome. John DeLorean would be proud.
That second hinge is really
John would be proud.
The reason it's able to do that is because, unlike the traditional gull-wing door, which is only actuated on a single hinge, the Model X falcon-wing doors are actuated on two hinges. So it's able to move up and over instead of simply moving out in a broad arc. And moreover, if you compare it to, say, a minivan door, let's open the minivan door here. You can see that when the minivan door opens, I can't even get through that space. So let's close the minivan door. Now the falcon-wing door is open.
Easy in.
But our goal was to create an aperture that was more functional than a minivan door, and I think the team has succeeded. So I think it's the best aperture out there.
Tesla is selling a lot of Model X's right now.
What it's like in your garage. So
Right now.
So what it's like if it's tight from a size standpoint, or what if you have a low garage? That's one of the most common questions I get about the Model X. The car actually automatically senses what the roof height is. So there are ultrasonic sensors in the roof of the car that calculate the roof height and automatically compute a new opening mark depending upon what the height of the ceiling is and what the side obstacles are. We actually developed a new ultrasonic sensor that's able to do sonar through metal. So in order to avoid having a pump, which is ordinarily needed for ultrasonic sensors, we thought that the aesthetics of the pump would not be good because it would have to be in the center of the door. So we actually developed an ultrasonic sensor that can literally see through metal. Alright. So let's maybe talk a bit more about the second row seats. So normally second row seats in a car don't get a lot of love. So let's show you what second row seats typically look like in a car. So that's sort of what second row seats normally look like. But particularly when you open something and it's silhouetted as it does with the falcon-wing door, it tends to create a halo around the seat. So we put a lot of effort into creating a beautiful seat. And not only is the seat, I think, probably the best looking second seat, that's a superlative, ever, but it actually provides more functionality because you have a flat floor and you can stow if something. So if you've got a backpack or a laptop or a handbag, you can stow that under the seat instead of having it at your feet. So it actually provides utility as well as aesthetics. All right. And speaking of utility, let's see what the Model X can really carry.
Another X coming on stage, towing a mobile home.
The Model X is capable of towing 5,000 pounds. So 5,000 pounds while carrying 7 people and quite a lot of luggage. Yeah. There's not to get out front. Yes, we need a stroller. There you go. Just put the net on. All right. All right, so there you have it. Model X carrying seven people, a 5,000 pound trailer, and I lost count of how many bags, and a stroller.
Comes the next X, signature red.
Yep. All right, so
It's got a tow hitch.
Something that we developed for the Model X is, like, let's say you want to carry skis, bikes, and you want to do that quickly and easily. We made an accessories hitch that can be put on by a kid in approximately 10 seconds. Thank you. I think that was more like 5 seconds. So the accessories hitch can carry up to 4 bikes or up to 6 sets of skis. And you can close the trunk and have full functionality of the rest of the car.
Probably keeps the aerodynamics better when it's not on top of the car as well. It's behind the car.
Skis and snowboards, indeed.
Both.
And then the final element, of course, is performance. Even the standard version of the Model X has quite high performance. So it's got the standard version 90D's got 257-mile range, all-wheel drive, of course, and it gets to 60 miles an hour in 4.8 seconds. And then the P90D Ludicrous mode. I mean, this goes so fast it's wrong. Do 0 to 60. This is an SUV, and it'll do 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds. All right, so with that, let's hand over the first production cars. All right.
Yeah.
It was fantastic to be there. There was a real energy in the room. Just obviously, it's a room full of Tesla fanatics. It was great to see. Saw a lot of Tesla t-shirts. I saw one guy wearing a cool t-shirt from that he, I guess, had made up. I don't know if he was a Tesla employee, because there were definitely Tesla employees running around with either their somehow they identified as, Tesla production team or assembly team, whatever it was. One guy had a shirt I really got a kick out of. If you watch the HBO show Silicon Valley this past season, the billionaire guy who says, I need doors that I can't have doors that open like this, and he makes normal door motions. I need doors that open like this, and he puts his arms up and down like scissor doors or going doors. And the shirt was a front illustration of a Model X with its doors open that says doors that open like this. So I thought that was awesome. But I want to say congratulations to Tesla Motors for shipping what is the first mass-produced gullwing/falcon-wing doored car since my beloved DeLorean, which last left a production line in 1983. I love that history will link my two favorite car companies in that very small but certainly significant way. And before you write in, by the way, notice I said mass-produced, because you're probably thinking, oh, there was the AMG, the Mercedes, the SLS, the new Mercedes Gullwing. That, of course, was the other most prominent gullwing doored car between the DeLorean and the Model X, but that was limited production. You'll never see them. You rarely see them, and even here around the Bay Area. And in fact, I went and looked it up on Wikipedia. Mercedes/AMG only built, there were 1,837 of them built for the U.S. I didn't see any European or international figures, but so that's over 5 years. So that doesn't count as mass produced. Those things were hand done, limited run. And the DeLorean was mass produced. The first year of production, 1981, for the DeLorean, there were over 6,000 of the 9,000 DeLoreans built, and then it was 82. They started to run into of course, the legal problems, and the 83s were just the 1983 model DeLoreans were actually assembled in the United States I won't get into the history, but they took all the half-assembled cars and all the parts and assembled them, and those are the 83s. But the DeLorean was mass-produced, and the Model X certainly will be. It's not yet. There are only 6 of them in the wild so far. But nevertheless, I do want to congratulate Tesla for bringing back the gullwing/falcon wing door. It was really fun to be in the same room as Elon. It's only the second time I've ever been able to say that. I mentioned at the top, I love the energy in the room. I loved seeing Gullwing. Just seriously, seeing. I know you guys are probably sick of me talking about this already, but the DeLorean meant so much to me. And one of my favorite things about it was the gull-wing doors. They're just so elegant and so much easier, so much more convenient. I've talked about how you can just park right next to a wall or another car if there's some, and you don't have to worry about it. You can get in easily every single time. And the Falcon wings are a really, really brilliant iteration on gull wings. It was tough to tell. The other thing I liked, my other favorite thing about the X, besides the Falcon wings, was even though it was tough to tell indoors under the weird event lighting, and I didn't get a test ride, which I'll talk about in a second, but so I couldn't really see, I wasn't able to be in the car outside. But I love the never-ending windshield. That windshield that just slopes up, 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 and straight to the Falcon wings. It is beautiful. I did get to sit in Elon's car, which was the only one that they had out that you could sit in. And gosh, I guess when you're Elon and you have limitless funds and you own the company, you don't care about literally thousands of people pawing and clawing at your car. That thing, I'm sure, got scratched up and it was covered in fingerprints and God knows what else. And I kind of feel bad for him, but he's Elon. He can get it refinished and everything buffed out and cleaned up. But the other thing that really impressed me, just as on a personal level, Elon's car is black on black paint, dark wheels, the dark 22-inch turbines. And it has the white interior, the white leather. It's gorgeous. Or actually, well, I guess it's synthetic, right? That's what we've learned, that it's not actually leather, it's a synthetic, which presumably is to keep it cleaner and keep from genes and things, discoloring, rubbing off and dyeing the white. But the white looks gorgeous. And it totally looks and feels exactly like leather. I totally want it. I totally want that on my signature Model 3. Now, I have a 4-year-old who, granted, would be 6 or 7 by the time the Model 3 rolls around, so we'll see. It might not end up being a good idea to get the white, but I'll just look for feedback from those of you who get this white synthetic in your signature Model X's. But as to the things I didn't like about the event, no media test rides. The sort of prominent media, which I understand I am totally not. I was lucky to be invited. I've covered the car, I do this podcast, but it was the Wireds and the Jalopniks and the, I don't know who else, the road and track, the car and drivers. Those guys were actually invited earlier in the day to go drive the cars and shoot them and get really up close with them and get some one-on-one time. But the rest of us sort of lower tier media at the event on that night, I asked multiple people because I didn't want to give up. There were no test rides, which was a shame, but I get it. I mean, I wasn't going to throw a fit about that. The other thing I was really disappointed in, that this, I just don't understand how this goes. I mean, unless there just literally are 6 cars that are considered finished, and those were all the cars handed off to the founders and were used for test rides. But there were no vehicles to look at up close at the event besides Elon's, and which, of course, that was mobbed the entire time. I mean, I had to wait probably, once I got on it, there was a line to get on the stage to go look at Elon's car. And then from that, I kind of had to wait. It was sort of an honor system thing. It probably took me 10 or 15 minutes just to get a chance to sit in the second row for 2 minutes. But it was disappointing. That it would have been nice to have, 4, 5, 6 other cars parked around the event space so that people could spread out and see different maybe interior configurations, because there were signature reservation holders here, people that need to make decisions about the large amount of money that they're spending. I will say the ones that were there, that were delivered, the founders' cars, the 6 of them, I didn't think the X looked good in gray. There was one of the 6 was gray. Elon's was black. I thought it looked fantastic in the blue. It's the same new blue that the S has. And I thought Elon's in all black looked really cool. Now, Elon didn't mention, he sort of mentioned the standard model as the 90D, so that led to people going, wait a second, what happened to the 70D? Elon didn't mention it there, but he did tweet afterwards that it's coming later, and he in fact followed up even after that. He said, quote, something like a 70 will be out in about a year, about 12 months were his words. So, and then for all the talk about safety, There was no mention at the event of autopilot. For instance, even just so far as to say the full autopilot suite is going to ship on every Model X, which I hope will happen. But he did not talk anything about autopilot. And then what I'm undecided on, I think a lot of you probably are going to guess what I'm going to say if you've looked at the car in video or in pictures on the Tesla site. I'm undecided on the front end. It looks odd because we're not used to seeing car front ends like that. We're used to seeing, every car ever pretty much has had to have an air intake in the front end to cool the engine. And of course, the X doesn't need that. It's an electric vehicle. So, it looks odd in white. There was one white car there, and it's just very, very, just a whole lot of white paint up front. However, since I couldn't get a test ride, I hung around outside and stood behind the fence of the makeshift track they had set up, and I just watched the cars come around as they did laps. And I think it's growing on me. I think I'm going to like it once I see it in daylight. The red, both reds, the SIG red and the Tesla multicoat red, and the blue, the black. I think the front end, the nose is going to grow on me, but they did indeed get rid of the nose cone. All this time that we've been seeing these mules running around, most of them have had their front ends wrapped. Tesla did manage to keep that elimination of the nose cone secret until this event. And it definitely, read through the Tesla Motors Club forum, it is polarizing. People are definitely split on it, and I totally understand that. I didn't dislike it. I was put off by it because, again, I just think it's an unfamiliarity, not used to seeing it, but I think it's going to grow on me. So Elon kept true to his word, by the way. He always said the production vehicle should be better than the prototype. Some people might argue that parts of it weren't, such as the second row seats not folding flat, and some people might not like the nose coneless front. But generally speaking, as far as the features, it is definitely better than the prototype. The self-opening and closing front doors, I thought that was a hoot. I totally want it, even though it's probably just if we're being serious, that's a pretty silly feature. You don't need that. That is a parlor trick, but nevertheless a cool one. Another surprise, the bioweapon defense mode, which was Tesla's humor at work, which is their humor way of just talking about what is this gigantic HEPA filter, this air filter that's supposed to make the interior hospital operating room level clean. It will suss out bacteria, viruses, dust, dirt, pollens, everything. Which, that's cool. If you spend a lot of time in your car, and that's not an insignificant thing to have nice clean air in the cabin of your car. And then the other thing you could count as a surprise that's better than the prototype, even though it had been revealed a bit through the design studio ahead of time, that windshield, that just never-ending windshield looks incredible, even just from, again, sitting in Elon's car, under the lights, indoors. That is going to be spectacular on a sunny blue sky day. Now, this leads you to believe, too, leads to a discussion of, well, which features from the X are probably going to make their way over to the S? And 4 of them jumped out at me. Number 1, I would say, is the one that's the least likely, but possible, is the nose cone. Everyone's expecting a Model S design refresh to happen at some point in the not too distant future. And so it's very possible that the nose cone could go if they refresh the Model S in order to sort of give it the closer family resemblance to the X and bring it, the S is from 2012 now, and we're almost through 2015. So look for it. It's entirely possible that the nose cone could go, and that we might have the full painted front end for the S. Now, the other 3 things that I think are more likely, I'll go from least likely all the way up to almost what I would think is almost guaranteed. I think the ventilated cooled seats that the X has, that's I went the wrong way. That one I think that's the near lock. I think that'll definitely happen. There's no reason why they wouldn't put those seats in the S and offer that as an option. I mean, it would make all the sense in the world to do so. I would expect that to happen fairly soon. And then this air filter, this HEPA air filter and the bioweapon defense mode, it's a button in the UI on the X. I think there's a good chance if they can physically find room in the S, which presumably it would be somewhere, because apparently in the X, according to the illustration on Tesla's site, it's sort of mounted between, right at the rear of the frunk, just ahead of, behind the dashboard. So perhaps one could go there for the S, and that the S will get this same killer air filter setup, because it's actually two. It's the giant one that's seriously like 8 times the size of a standard one, as Elon demonstrated on stage. And then there's the secondary air filter too. I have no idea where that one goes, but presumably you could find room for that in the S as well. And then the final thing I think could very well make it to the S, we'll see, I said this one's more 50-50, would be those self-opening and closing doors that triangulate your position with the key and open for you. You sit in the seat and it closes for you. I think there's probably a 50-50 shot that could find its way to the S2 as some sort of, I wonder if that would be just a separate monetized option, would be the auto opening and closing doors for $1,000 or whatever. I will say, overall, heading into this event, I was just excited to be there. If you'd asked me ahead of time, I've always said if you gave me the choice between the S and the X, I mean, I can't afford either one, but I would take the S 10 out of 10 times. I've never liked SUVs. I've never liked crossovers. They've never really done anything for me. But part of me was caught up in the event, but I will say all the X's cool toys made me want it. It made me want it. I admit that those falcon wings are a big part of it for me. It was just, seeing them up close too was just like, it kind of, again, it reminded me of the DeLorean, and it just brought me back to a happier time when I had my dream car in my garage. But I do, again, I have to, I say it every show, but you guys with X reservations, you're going to love your falcon wing doors. I promise you that. And I think after that event, I know there was some mixed reaction to it online from the chatter I saw, and even in the mainstream press. I mean, a lot of the enthusiast outlets were very, very high on the event, but so there were some other non sort of automotive outlets that were kind of a little miffed by it and a little sort of half and half on it. But I think that Tesla sold a lot of Model X's that night. I really do. So again, give me a call with your reaction to it. If you were there, if you've what you thought of it, if you've got a question about what it was like to be there, or again, if you were there, want to share your thoughts and impressions from being in the room, give me a ring, toll free, thanks to Life on Record. The number is 1-888-989-TSLA. Now, I was going to end the show there. I had my show all prepped, my planner all set to go, and then Elon went on a Twitter barrage. He dropped one thing I think is a bombshell, and then a few other interesting tidbits. So Elon took to Twitter at the end of the week here, in fact, it's here over the weekend, and just almost unprompted. So someone tweeted him saying, quote, and this is a very innocuous tweet, right? This person said, "Not gonna lie, I'd sell my soul to Elon Musk for one," meaning referencing a Model X. "Please tell me the Model 3 crossover," meaning the crossover variant, not the sedan. "Please tell me the Model 3 crossover will have these doors." Elon chose to reply to this person and said, quote, "There will be a Model 3 and a Model Y," which I presume the Model Y is referencing the Model 3 crossover. He says, "There will be a Model 3 and a Model Y. One of the two will," meaning have falcon wing doors. Whoa. He's like, whoa. Stop the clock here, Elon. Hang on. Oh, you just casually dropped that on Twitter. Dude, hang on a second. Now, I will say, I'm not surprised that Elon is going to use falcon wings again, because he's already solved the engineering problem. Right? So that part is done, and he likes them. So that makes sense. But announcing that they'll be on on one of what is likely Tesla's next two vehicles, that's a surprise. And that's awesome. Now, again, speaking personally, I want it to be on Model 3, of course, very, very badly, because that's what I'm buying. I've never been an SUV, CUV person. I can't wait more years, another 2 to 3 years after Model 3 for a car. I'm going to be ready to move as soon as Model 3 hits. Again, I'm aiming for a signature. That's got to be my car. But I suspect he's probably referring to the Model Y, to the crossover, because the 3 has to be simpler because the company has to get the car out. The Gigafactory is tied to it. The whole point of the company, phase 3 of the 3-phase plan, is Model 3, is getting it out. The competitors are starting to nip at Tesla's heels. And Elon has said that it's going to be a simpler car because of the fact that they need to get it out. They can't have an X-like situation where they just get down this rabbit hole of weird engineering, of sort of creating problems, creating solutions for problems that don't exist. So I suspect that the Falcon Wings are probably going to go on the Model Y. And I'm guessing it'll just be implemented exactly like it is on the X, regular front doors and Falcon Wings in the rear. But it's not out of the question that it could be the 3. It could go one of two ways. Now, the 3 sedan, it could have 2 large Falcon Wings that open up the entire driver or passenger side. It's never been done on a production car, which is probably music to Elon's ears, but it's been done on concept cars, a number of them in the past. I did a Google image search, and one of the cars that came up was Tesla lead designer Franz von Holzhausen, his own Mazda Ryuga from when he was at Mazda. Or the other way they could do this, and I know you guys are going to just chuckle and hopefully not turn off the show because I'm going to mention DeLorean again, but the DeLorean, John DeLorean, the DeLorean Motor Company's next car after the DMC-12, which is the DMC-12, if you're not aware, that is the DeLorean that we know today, the only car they made. The next car, had the company survived, was going to be a 4-door gull-winged sedan that was codenamed the Medusa. That would have been a real thing that DeLorean would have made. And as you can probably picture why it would have been called Medusa, because it would have had 4 individual gull-wing doors that, when all up, could have looked like, the snakes on top of Medusa's head, these 4 gull wings. So, it's, I could see that implementation working for if you did the front, if you sort of, if you did the front Falcon Wing standard, sort of, with the larger, the door, the window comes down and the larger part of the door is the toward the front of the car. And then if you flipped that, it could work for the rear so that there's, so that the larger part of the door, so that it's sort of a mirror image. The door itself, the Falcon door, is a mirror image of the front door. It could work. And I so want it to be the Model 3, to be the one with Falcon Wings. That would to me, which matters to none of you, but to me that would say that this is like, that Tesla and I are sort of, that it's in the stars for me to have this car. If it would have that crazy of a link to my one-time dream car, the car that I had for 12 years. But we'll see. So we know that Falcon Wings are going to be on another Tesla vehicle. It's just a question of if it's the 3, the sedan, or if it's the Model Y, which is the crossover. Now, also, is this the first time? Model Y has been thrown around before, but I don't know if Elon has ever used it in any sort of official capacity to say, to refer to the Model 3 crossover as the Model Y. That may not. I know he's used Model Y before because they've wanted to do the Model S, E, X, Y to have sexy, and then of course we couldn't have Model E. And Model Y had been thrown around before, but anyway, and then you'll have Model R, the next generation Roadster, sexier. Anyway, Elon wasn't done on Twitter, by the way. He was on fire. he mentioned, for those of you that this has been a long-standing question for the Model X because of those falcon wings, well, what about a roof rack? He said there will be a roof rack option that is suction cupped on, and it will take up one side of the car. So you'll be able to get one falcon wing open, but not both. And Elon guarantees it will hold up to 140 miles per hour. He also mentioned, the other thing he mentioned that's of note that addresses some people's concerns is, well, what about storage pockets in those big falcon wing doors? You can have stuff falling out. Well, he said that there are storage pockets in the falcon wings with a rubber lining in them to make sure your stuff doesn't fall out. So slowly but surely, Elon clarifying things, dropping little bombshells, and boy, what a week. What a week for Tesla stuff. My goodness. I wonder if, you'd think next week's got to be quiet, right? Next week's going to have to be a quiet week. So on that note, I'm going to save, I've got a few phone calls queued up, but I'm going to save them for next week. I'm going to bank on the likeliness that next week is a pretty quiet week. So let me come right back, do a couple of plugs, remind you a couple things, and then I will get on out of here. That's it for this week's show. I hope you didn't mind me including the Elon presentation in the show this week. I kind of thought about it, I was like, well, what would be the best listener service? How many of my listeners would have watched the stream? Certainly not a lot of people got to be there. So, I don't know, I hope you found it useful. If not, I gave you the instruction of how far to skip ahead. So hopefully that wasn't too annoying. If so, I apologize, but it was kind of a one-time deal. Anyway, follow me on Twitter at DMC_Ryan. And if it won't fit into 140 characters, you can always email the show, teslapodcast@gmail.com. And hey, if you're a video game player, check me out at my day job at IGN.com. I've got my fingers in many of the pies over there. I'm our previews editor, also reviewing some video games like Rock Band 4 is the game I'll have reviewed on Monday, so check that out. Also, I would kindly ask that you check out nerdstyles.com. That's a little side project, little t-shirt line I launched with a bunch of game and geek-inspired t-shirts, as well as one coffee mug. So, holidays aren't too far away if you've got a video game player in your life. My by far the most popular selling design is called Coexist, and it is a little anthropomorphic Xbox controller and anthropomorphic PlayStation 4 controller high-fiving to say, hey, we can all us video games and video game players can get along. That's people seem to like that one. So if you've got a gamer in your life, maybe take a look at that and help support me. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, Dave T., he of Tesla Motors Club fame, he does a great job every week on the Tesla newsletter. Subscribe to that for free at teslaweekly.com. And I'll give one more mention to my phone number provider, the whole reason that we're able to have call-ins on the show, lifeonrecord.com. If you know someone special with an upcoming birthday, anniversary, graduation, or some other special occasion, you can give them a unique gift of recorded voices from friends and family telling them why they're special. You can then podcast those recordings or put them into a keepsake, a digital keepsake. Visit lifeonrecord.com to learn more. So that'll do it for episode 10. 10 episodes in, getting my sea legs under me here. I'm feeling good about the show. I'm having a blast doing this. And I want to thank everybody who's been listening. Hopefully tell your friends. I know I haven't mentioned this yet, but I've got a few iTunes reviews. If you get a chance, would really appreciate it if you would leave a review. You don't have to necessarily write anything, but just click however many stars you think. The reviews do help the show get some visibility on iTunes. So if you've got a few extra moments, would appreciate a review on iTunes. And that'll do it. Thanks everybody for listening, and I'll see you back here for episode 11 next week.